The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, 23 years after I'd last heard my grandfather's name spoken aloud. I stood in my Seattle apartment, rain hammering against the windows, holding an envelope so old the paper had yellowed to the color of weak tea. The handwriting was spidery, uncertain, as if written by someone whose hands shook with palsy or fear. Inside, a law firm from a town I'd never heard of, Ashbrook, West Virginia, informed me that my grandfather, Silas Mercer, had passed away 6 months prior. The letter had apparently been making its way through various forwarding addresses, following the breadcrumb trail of my adult life. But it was the second paragraph that made my blood run cold. Welcome, guys, to Mr. Bone channel. Today's story, I will be sharing true scary encounters of being home alone on Halloween. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Mr. Bone. If you are new here, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's continue. Show less the Singing Caves Deep Appalachia Horror Story Number 1. The letter had apparently been making its way through various forwarding addresses, following the breadcrumb trail of my adult life. But it was the second paragraph that made my blood run cold. As the sole surviving heir, you are hereby notified that the property known as Mercer Hollow, comprising 247 acres in the Unaka Range of the Appalachian Mountains, has been bequeathed to you in its entirety. The property includes the main residence, 3 outbuildings, and all contents therein. As stipulated in Mr. Mercer's will, you must take possession of the property within 60 days of notification, or it will revert to the state of West Virginia. I hadn't thought about my grandfather in decades. My mother had forbidden any mention of him after we'd left West Virginia when I was 7 years old. She'd packed our belongings in the middle of the night, loaded me and my younger sister into our rusted Buick, and driven away from those mountains as if the devil himself was chasing us. She'd never explained why. When I asked about Grandpa Silas, she'd go pale and silent, her lips pressing into a thin line. Only once, when I was 16 and stupid with teenage rebellion, I'd pushed her. I demanded to know why we'd left, why we'd never gone back, why she refused to even speak his name. She'd slapped me. The only time in my life she'd ever raised a hand to me. Then she'd grabbed my shoulders, her fingers digging in hard enough to bruise, and said in a voice I'd never heard before, "There are things in those mountains that you don't understand. Things that your grandfather was part of. We left to save your soul, Daniel. Don't you ever ask me about him again." I never did. She died of cancer 3 years ago. My sister, Emma, had moved to Australia and rarely called. I was 30 years old, working as a freelance graphic designer, living alone in a city where the rain was a constant companion and mountains were just postcard scenery in the distance. The smart thing would have been to sign whatever papers were necessary and let the state have the property. I could probably sell it, but the letter mentioned it was accessible only by a private road, had no modern utilities, and was remote even by local standards. Who would buy such a place? But curiosity is a poison that works slowly. I found myself researching Ashbrook, West Virginia. The town barely existed online. A few scattered references. A population of 342 according to the 2020 census. No official website. The county it was in, Sawyer County, seemed to be one of those forgotten pockets of Appalachia that time and progress had simply bypassed. The few images I found showed a handful of weathered buildings clustered around a single intersection, mountains rising like dark teeth on all sides. I booked a flight to Charleston, West Virginia, for the following week. My best friend, Marcus, thought I was insane. "Dude, your mom literally ran away from there in the middle of the night. That's horror movie setup 101. You're the guy who ignores all the warnings and ends up dead in Act 2. He wasn't wrong to worry. But something was pulling me toward those mountains. Maybe it was the orphan's longing for connection to family, even family I'd never really known. Maybe it was the mystery of what had driven my mother away. Or maybe it was something else, something I couldn't name, a whisper in my blood that said, "Come home, come home, come home." I should have listened to Marcus. The drive from Charleston took 4 hours, and with each passing mile, I felt like I was traveling backward through time. The interstate gave way to state highways, which gave way to county roads, which finally gave way to a 2-lane strip of crumbling asphalt that wound through hollows so deep and narrow that the sun seemed to set at 3 in the afternoon. Cell service had disappeared an hour ago. My GPS had given up shortly after. I was navigating by a hand-drawn map that the lawyer, a Mr. Ephraim Cobb, had mailed to me after I'd called to confirm my arrival. Ashbrook, when I finally found it, looked like a town that was slowly being reclaimed by the forest. The few buildings that remained standing were weathered to a uniform gray, their windows dark and empty. A rusted sign hanging from a single chain read Ashbrook General Store. But the building behind it was clearly abandoned. An ancient gas station with old-style pumps sat at the intersection, and to my surprise, a hand-painted sign declared it open. I pulled in, my rental car's engine seeming obscenely loud in the silence. The station was small, just a single room with a few shelves of goods and a counter where an elderly man sat reading a newspaper. He looked up as I entered, his eyes, pale blue and rheumy, studying me with unsettling intensity. "Help you?" His voice was like gravel sliding over stone. "Just need to fill up," I said. "And maybe some directions. I'm looking for Mercer Hollow." The change in the atmosphere was immediate and palpable. The old man's face, already lined with age, seemed to collapse further. He set down his newspaper with trembling hands. "You kin to Silas Mercer?" "His grandson, Daniel Mercer." The old man stood slowly, joints creaking. He walked to the window and stared out at the mountains, now turning purple with the approaching dusk. "Silas passed on 6 months back," he said softly. "Folks around here thought that Hollow might finally have some peace." "What do you mean?" He turned to look at me, and I saw something in his eyes that made my skin crawl. It wasn't fear exactly. It was more like resignation. The look of someone who'd seen something terrible and learned to live with the knowledge. "Your granddaddy, he weren't a bad man," the old man said. "But that Hollow, something's wrong with that place. Always has been. Even the Cherokee wouldn't hunt there, back before they were driven out. Called it the place where the trees whisper lies." "That's just superstition," I said, but my voice sounded uncertain even to my own ears. The old man smiled, revealing gaps where teeth should have been. "You'll see soon enough. Mercer Hollow is about 8 miles up Road 17. Can't miss the turnoff. There's an old iron gate with the name worked into it. But here's some advice, son, from someone who's lived in these mountains all his 79 years. Don't stay there after dark. Not on your first night. Maybe not ever." I wanted to laugh it off, to dismiss him as a superstitious old man from a backward place. But something in his voice stopped me. He believed every word he was saying. I paid for my gas and bought a few supplies, water, some canned goods, batteries. As I was leaving, the old man called out, "One more thing. If you hear singing at night, don't follow it. And if someone comes to your door and asks to be let in, look at their eyes first. Really look. The Hollow folk, they can't quite get the eyes right." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak, and left. Road 17 was barely more than a dirt track, winding up into the mountains through forests so thick that the canopy blocked out the dying sun. My rental car bottomed out twice on rocks, and I began to seriously question whether I'd be able to make it. Then I saw the gate. Follow up for part 2. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, or Mr. Bone might come for you tonight.